Hey everybody, how's it going? This is going to be part 2 of my Beatles song ranking series, and unfortunately I realized after I did the first video that I omitted a couple of songs from this list. There's so many songs to keep track of, and as near as I can tell, there are 200 Beatles songs, not 196 like I originally counted. And if you know me, if you've seen my videos, it comes as no surprise that I goofed, that I screwed up somewhere along the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a recap. I'm going to start from the bottom just very quickly and work my way up through the top. And I'm going to tell you where I slotted. It happens that the songs that I omitted, most of them fall at the bottom of this list. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to recap the list from part 1 and then include the songs that I had forgotten. So at number 200, I had Matchbox. Number 199 was Mr. Moonlight. Number 198 was Devil in Her Heart. Number 197 was Dig It. Number 196 was Maggie May. Number 195 was Her Majesty. At 194, I've got Please, Mr. Postman, which was off With the Beatles' second album. Not a fan of that particular song. I don't care who does it. I don't care. I think it was the Shirelles who did the original. Not a fan of that version necessarily either. I just don't like the song, I guess. I think it's kind of hokey. But John gives it a great performance. I'm not knocking the Beatles' performance. They do a great performance and arrangement of it, but that's where I put it. Number 193, Long Tall Sally. Number 192, higher than most people would put it on their list, Revolution 9. 191, I've got Not a Second Time, which was off With the Beatles / Meet the Beatles. Yeah, it's an okay song. It's a Lennon-McCartney original, and I know it's more complex than most of the Beatles songs at that stage, but you know, it's just an okay so-so song for me. Number 190 was Money. I took a lot of crap for slotting that song so low. Number 189 was All Together Now. 188, Wild Honey Pie. 187, Till There Was You. 186, You Really Got a Hold on Me, a cover of the Smokey Robinson and the Miracles song. Yeah, I like the original song. I like this song, but just in terms of all the other songs that are available to pick from, I had to slot this at 186. 185 is Boys. 184, I'm Happy Just to Dance with You. 183, Don't Pass Me By. 182, Honey Pie. 181, Ask Me Why. 180, I Want to Be Your Man. 179, You Like Me Too Much. 178, What Goes On. 177 is where I am picking up the list today. And my 177th pick is going to be Octopus's Garden, another Ringo song. Yeah, it's okay. It's, you know, it's a song off Abbey Road, one of my favorite Beatle albums. On any given day, it's number 1 or number 2. It's all right. It's a Ringo composition. You can see in the Get Back film, George is helping him out with the chord progression and some lyrics. So it's a very charming Ringo song. It's sort of like the sister song to Yellow Submarine. But, you know, this is just where it falls for me. I'm not crazy about the song, but I don't hate it either. Number 176 is going to be a cover of the Larry Williams song, their second Larry Williams cover, Slow Down. It's a great piano-based rocker. I love the song a lot. John absolutely attacks his vocal on this track, and you can tell he's got a real affection for Larry Williams. But this is a great, great cover version. I don't want you to think just because I'm ranking it low that I don't like it. Some hard choices had to be made, and this one just happened to fall where it did. Number 175, Do You Want to Know a Secret, off the Please Please Me album. This is another one that I've got a nostalgic feeling for. This is one of the earliest Beatles songs that I remember hearing. One of the first Beatle albums that I ever had was Introducing the Beatles. My uncle bought it for me. It was probably a bootleg copy. But anyway, all those songs, I really like those songs. I know it's very kind of pedestrian Beatles, and they hadn't fully refined their songwriting skills, but it's a great George vocal. I think, it's funny to hear George kind of sing these early songs where he's a little bit tentative in his vocal. He doesn't entirely have the confidence that he would have later on, but I think, again, it is a very decent Beatles song, and I don't think it was a single, but it could have easily been. I really like that song a lot. Then number 174, Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby, another Carl Perkins cover. Now listen to the difference in George's voice on this song. So much more confidence when he's singing this cover. Maybe he likes the song better. I don't know. I know Ringo and George were big Carl Perkins fans, but it's a great cover, a great bit of rockabilly. But again, I rank these cover songs a bit lower just because I like more of the Lennon-McCartney originals. And I've had people in the comments section say, well, they actually do a great job on the covers. And I know they do. I'm not knocking the covers, but again, that's where I have it. Number 173 is another piano-based rocker. This is a Lennon-McCartney original, Little Child, off of With the Beatles, Meet the Beatles. And I do like it. It's just an average Lennon and McCartney song. I guess you can dance to it, or you could dance to it back in the day, but it's fine. Number 172, also off With the Beatles, Meet the Beatles, All I've Got to Do, the second John Lennon ballad that he would write, or at least that would be put on a Beatles studio album. And I like this a lot. It's got a little more of an introspective lyric, which I can appreciate. And it's fine, but, there are so many better Lennon songs yet to come on this list. Number 171 is Misery, again, from Please Please Me, introducing the Beatles. Early Beatles, I think it was on Early Beatles. Anyway, it's a very, and actually, no, it was not on Early Beatles. It was on Beatles Rarity, the 1980 compilation, not on Early Beatles. But anyway, that notwithstanding, I like Misery. It's certainly, a very early Beatles composition. You can tell there's not a lot of substance behind it. They do a decent version of it. And again, they recorded the Please Please Me album in one day. So you can be forgiven if these aren't magnificent songs on the debut album. And Misery is, pretty decent. Number 170, Tell Me Why, off A Hard Day's Night. And I love the A Hard Day's Night soundtrack, but Tell Me Why is just all right. It's got a great John vocal, and it's very exuberant. But in terms of the other songs on that soundtrack album, this one probably falls near the bottom for me. Is it catchy? Yeah, it is. And I love where John breaks into that falsetto where he sings, "If there's anything I can do." Very cool, but it's still low on my list. 169, I'll Follow the Sun, one of the earliest songs that Paul McCartney wrote. They dusted it off for the Beatles for Sale album. In the US, it fell on Beatles 65. And it's okay. They do a different arrangement than he originally wrote for the song, a little more contemporary for the time. But the Beatles were running out of material at this stage, and so they had to dig up some old, stuff from their early songwriting days. And this one is just okay. It's certainly not the best ballad that Paul McCartney's ever written, but it's not the worst either. Number 168, going to Magical Mystery Tour for Your Mother Should Know. Kind of a rewrite of When I'm 64, or at least in that vaudevillian style, if you will. I love in the Magical Mystery Tour film where they're wearing their white tuxedos and their red carnations, except for Paul, who's wearing a black carnation. What does that mean? But it's okay. It's, Paul would write these kind of, almost songs like he was writing them for an older generation. And, John called them Paul's granny music. But I do like this song. It's just in terms of the other songs on Magical Mystery Tour, it falls lower. Number 167, the Beatles comedy track, You Know My Name, Look Up the Number. The instrumental track was recorded in 1967 with Brian Jones on saxophone, and it would sit on a shelf for 2 years until John and Paul resurrected it. I believe it was in the summer of 1969, and they added their campy vocals to the song. But it's a really fun song to listen to. You can tell the Beatles are having a lot of fun with this song, and it sort of reminds me of some of their Christmas discs, their fan club Christmas discs, where they try to inject a bit of comedy. So I really like that song just for the humor of it. 166, the third Larry Williams cover, they would do Dizzy Miss Lizzie. It ends Help. And, I wish they would have ended Help on a stronger note. I don't dislike Dizzy Miss Lizzie, but it is a cover version, and it's a song that had been in their repertoire since, I think, their Star Club days, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a decent cover. John gives it a great vocal performance, but it's another one of those covers. Number 165 is When I'm 64, which I think Paul wrote in tribute to his dad. His dad was in a jazz band, and I think that's what kind of got Paul into music. And I like the lyrics. The lyrics are very charming, and as I'm nearing 64, I know I'm still a long way off, but, as you get older, I think the song resonates a little more with you. Number 164, P.S. I Love You, the flip side of Love Me Do. A very excellent early ballad, great vocal by Paul McCartney, and it is just such a short slice of Beatles magic. Even in those early days, they could write a surefire pop hit. And I love P.S. I Love You. Number 163, Flying. I believe one of the only instrumentals in the Beatles' entire catalog. It's on Magical Mystery Tour. And it's cool. It's got a very chill vibe to it. I love the whole, I think there's like the Mellotron on there, and it just gets into this groove. You got a bit of Hammond organ there, and then the da 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 chorus with Ringo leading the choir at the end there, I think is very cool. So yeah, I dig it. Magical Mystery Tour is a very cool album. I almost liken it to their Smiley Smile, where you got weird little tracks like Flying on it. But Flying is, I like it. I do. I like it a lot. I'm sorry I got to rank it so low, but there you have it. Number 162, the last song on the White Album, Good Night, a charming song that John wrote for his son Julian, gave it to Ringo to sing. Ringo does a great job. Ringo was meant to sing for children, I feel. But he does a great version of this particular song. I love it. After, and it's that juxtaposition between Revolution 9 and then it's sort of like the afterglow of Good Night to kind of send you off to bed after you have listened to the full majesty of the White Album. Number 161, The Inner Light. George's last raga song, if you will, the last song to entirely feature Indian musicians on it. It's got a great melody. I think he adopted the lyrics from the I Ching. Regardless of the source, George borrowed those lyrics from a poem. Whatever the source of the lyrics, I think it's a cool song. And it was a B-side, but I'm surprised it never found its way. It didn't find its way onto the Hey Jude album. That would have been a perfect home for the Inner Light. And I'm glad George was kind of done with his whole Indian music experiments, I guess you could say, with this song, but I do like the ones that he did, but I think enough was enough by this point. Number 160, Thank You Girl, a great early B-side that the Beatles churned out, and very catchy vocals. I love when John and Paul harmonize together like the Everly Brothers, like they do on this song. Number 159, Maxwell's Silver Hammer. And by the time the Beatles recorded this for Abbey Road, they were sick and tired of Paul's perfectionism. They'd already tried this song numerous takes during the Get Back sessions, and then Paul, trotted it out again for them to have a go at it during the Abbey Road sessions, and they recorded multiple takes of it. John, in particular, hated this song just because they kept pounding it to death until they got it exactly the way Paul wanted it. And it's funny because it's such an insubstantial song, I feel. I do like it, but in terms of other songs that Paul was writing, one of his strongest songwriting periods, I feel, Maxwell's Silver Hammer is just okay. Number 158, Martha, My Dear. He wrote this for his sheepdog, Martha. And it kicks off side 2 of the White Album. And it's a decent enough little kind of piano ballad, I guess. I love the little brass section with the hand claps. So yeah, I do like it. Not as much as many of the other White Album tracks, but there you go. Number 157, It Won't Be Long, the opening track on With the Beatles, but it would be slotted at number 4 on side 1 of Meet the Beatles. Regardless of where it falls, it's a great opening track, and you can tell this album is going to be a progression from Please Please Me. The Beatles have way more confidence than they did on Please Please Me. John's vocal is so strong, so full of joy and excitement, and they give it a great, enthusiastic performance. Love It Won't Be Long. 156, George's first composition on a Beatles album, Don't Bother Me. Which I really like the reverb on this song. I think the guitar is cool. George's vocal is stronger. Maybe because it's his own composition, he's finally stepping out as a singer and giving this some gusto to his performance. But I really like this one a lot. I like the guitar solo, everything about it. Even though it screams 1964 British invasion, it is still a very cool song. Number 155, I'll Get You, the B-side of She Loves You. Again, I love when John and Paul harmonize. Very catchy early song. Strong song. I think this song was actually maybe up for consideration as an A-side. But anyway, you slice it, it is just a great, very cool song. Number 154, A Taste of Honey, a cover song. This is sort of like Till There Was You off With the Beatles, a cover of I don't know if it was necessarily a show tune. Paul gives it a great vocal. It's kind of got an exotic flavor to it. And I love how Paul's vocal is very echoey, particularly on the chorus of this one. So anyway, I'm going to stop there at 154. Hope you've been enjoying this list. Let me know how it's falling in line with your list. And remember, these are just my own personal preferences. I'm not saying I'm ranking them in terms of least to best. This is just the way that I rank them, my preferences in terms of Beatles songs. Hope you're doing well, and take care.